A 25-year-old Ohio woman by the name of Amber Swink is suing the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department because of police brutality. So she was arrested last November while drinking at her home. She was severely intoxicated and was arrested. Now, we don't know why she was intoxicated, not intoxicated, why she was arrested in the first place. Because being severely intoxicated in your home is not grounds for being arrested.
There was more to it, but
yeah, but we can't find anything. There's just no reports of why she was actually arrested. But anyway, so she was arrested. The officers say that she was acting belligerent. She was, like I said, very intoxicated. Mm-hmm. So they had to restrain her. So they put her in an isolation room, sat her down, and restrained her hands and maybe her legs too. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But her hands were definitely restrained. Yeah. So then there's video. This is what happens. From what I saw, there were no grounds for pepper spraying Amber Swink right up in her face, close to her face. There were no grounds for that. She was restrained. So why would they have to pepper spray her? First of all, the officer looked annoyed too, because right after she pepper sprayed her, she went like that.
Well, I mean, I guess the eye test would kind of indicate to us that there were no grounds, but apparently the police officer thought there were grounds to pepper spray her. And those grounds ended up being she Swank spit or something.
She spit at the officer. And she punched something?
Well, the reason why they had to restrain her in the first place is she punched a window in one of the cells. Okay. So she was drunk. I mean,
she was drunk.
That's typical. So they put her in restraint so she wouldn't hurt anybody else or herself.
And that's... So we're not really
and she's
opposing
drunk,
that.
She's drunk. She's probably talking a bunch of crap.
Yeah,
most likely.
Doubt. No doubt.
And like I don't doubt the police woman's
she could have been very belligerent,
and then she probably she could have spit, which I can believe she's drunk.
But this is a police officer.
Yeah, and the thing is, she's not in danger.
No,
and obviously how you see how slow she was walking over, very cold and calculated. But I'm about to spray this.
Right, and she just walked, like you said, very calm and collected, and just sprayed her very calmly right in her face. Very close up to her face.
Very close up.
If you saw before the video kicks in too, she had already had an orange mark on her shirt.
Yeah, so sprayed her already.
She had already been sprayed once before that. So she gets sprayed again, gets left alone. Then somebody comes over there, pats her on the back, leaves. Then somebody else comes over there and they're wiping her chest or her neck area. And you see them coughing. They can't even handle it.
And it wasn't even on them.
Right.
I mean, because it essentially inflames, the nasal membranes, your throat, your nose, everything. It inflames everything. And it makes it hard to breathe.
In an interview that she did with the Washington Post, she said, "It felt like somebody just crushed up fresh peppers and made me use them as face cream. It took my breath away. You're fighting for air. I remember my mouth was filling with a thick slobber, like foaming up. And that was also blocking my airway." So, I mean, getting pepper sprayed is absolutely no fun. I've never had the pleasure of having to be pepper sprayed, but I can imagine it's not a very comfortable experience. But again, why would she be pepper sprayed when she was already under control? Because when you deploy a pepper spray, you're trying to get control of somebody. You're trying to stop them from fighting back, usually.
You're probably trying to de-escalate a situation.
Right. And Amber Swink was in an isolation room, restrained.
Completely restrained.
Can't
move.
Couldn't move. Drunk.
And you know what? Even if she wasn't restrained, she probably didn't even have the motor skills to be a threat to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, this is ridiculous. So, of course she's suing. She should be suing. She's suing in district court, and she should sue she should sue the hell out of them. But check out the sheriff. So the sheriff of this county, of Montgomery County, is a Sheriff Phil Plummer. And he doesn't see what the whole hubbub is about.
Yeah, because he opposed the lawsuit filed by Swink.
Yes, he opposes the lawsuit filed by her because he says this isn't that egregious where she's walked away with any serious injuries. The officer she spit on should sue her.
Wait a second. Like, so you don't judge the action for what it is. You just say, well, you didn't have any serious injuries, so no harm, no foul. No, you did something.
Yeah.
You did something incorrect, and you put somebody through something. So even if they're fully recovered afterwards, I'm sorry, you did something to someone.
But see, I see what you're saying here. But he also framed this as a, quote, isolated incident. He says that things like this do not happen in Montgomery County.
It doesn't matter.
So this is not indicative of how his officers treat prisoners or people that are in the jail cell.
That's kind of hard to believe because essentially, if you run a tight ship when something like this happens, you would think he would hold his officers accountable, and he's not doing that right now. He almost flipped it as if somehow his officers would, get compensation. I know he probably wasn't serious with that, but even to put that out there, that's kind of foul because apparently somebody who gets pepper sprayed and is going through a massive amount of pain, no, they don't deserve to get any kind of payment or their lawsuit's illegitimate. But somebody who gets spat on, they deserve compensation.
But think about how he's justifying this. He's talking about this as an isolated incident. Like, I don't care if you murder somebody one time and your record's clean before that. Should you not be punished?
Exactly. See,
this is an isolated incident.
See, and see,
it was calculated.
And see, and here's where we, move on to the pretty much the overall topic of police brutality.
Right.
See, it wasn't just that the one officer that's an issue here. It's her supervisor.
Right. So it's not just the officer that is guilty of the crime, is that she's being protected by her other officers and superiors.
Her superiors. Yeah. And so essentially they
and probably the DA who may not charge her, right?
Yeah, essentially they control the leash. They control the leash. They determine how long that leash is. And these officers usually don't go out on a limb by themselves. Some do because they're people. They have like their own individual inclinations.
But when officers see that this is the behavior, like if I do something, I'm gonna be protected, then what's the worry?
That's why I don't.
What's the worry? I get a slap on the wrist.
See, that's why I don't think
little suspension here.
That's why I don't think it's just isolated.
Of course, it's not isolated. Because he wouldn't have that reaction. He wouldn't have to defend. Yeah, he wouldn't have to be so defensive and say, "Oh, look, she doesn't deserve anything," because we don't do that here. Well, shit, if you don't do that here, you should probably take a stance against it. You shouldn't allow this kind of behavior to go on there.
Probably set example.
Set a standard.
You know what I'm saying? Set an example with this one incident.
He already
one incident. Remember?
He said the standard was not this. He said the standard is that stuff does not happen in Montgomery County. So if your standard is the right standard and something conflicts with that standard, then you should probably move against what happened, right? You should probably take a position that's against that crap.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's just actually take that for what it is. Let's just say that that's true. Nothing like that happens.
Okay.
That can be true.
Yeah.
At the same time, you can still hold your officers accountable.
Right.
So that it doesn't happen again, because obviously there's something slipping.
Yeah. Because now this is the norm now. Because you're accepting of it.